Welcome, everyone, to episode 132 of 1 Hour, 1 Decision, 1H1D. I am Chris.
And I am Tom.
And we take 60 minutes and play a random game on Xbox Game Pass and decide, well, Tom, is Astroneer worth our time?
I think we're going to find out as we talk about it on this episode.
Yes, we will. And as I said, Astroneer is what we're going to be talking about here. And this game was developed by System Era Softworks. This game came out back in December of 2019. And per usual, play this on the PC. 2.69 gigabytes on the PC. Tom, what about you?
Oh, look at this, Chris. We have kudos to give to this developer.
Yeah.
2.1 gigabytes on the Series S. Well done.
Okay.
A
Good
savings
job.
of half a gigabyte.
That's quite the savings, I guess, when you're going into space. You need all that space. I don't know.
It would weigh you down. If you're trying to get into the atmosphere, you need to carry as little as possible.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Because we are space rocket engineers that would know these things. I don't know.
Yeah.
Anyway, what kind of game is this, Tom?
It has nothing to do with that. It is a third-person sandbox / base builder.
Ooh, okay.
Building a base is what you do.
Yeah, you're right. I did not put any of that. I put the first part, third person space survival game.
Yes.
So,
though I would say, Chris,
yeah,
by saying space survival game, it sounds like you have to survive in space.
In space,
like Shipbreaker.
Mm-hmm.
This game takes place on the ground on a planet.
On the ground on a foreign
alien
planet.
But
yes.
And the planet's presumably in space somewhere.
There. Yeah, we're in space right now. So just a thought there. But what's the thought on the game loop?
All right. I think we're going to be more in line here. I have collect resources to build your base to unlock new ways to use your resources.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I worded it a little differently. I said gather materials to complete objectives while not suffocating.
That's an important part of the game, is not running out of oxygen.
It sure is. It sure is, because oxygen is really important. And I like to stay alive. So,
me too, both in real life and in the video game world.
Yes, we sure do. But what else do we like about Astroneer?
Well, I've got to say, I enjoy just generally, right? When a game has a good opening and it does a good cinematic transition into the actual game. Yeah. And this game did that well. So thumbs up. I like the game starts, you were doing credits and now we're playing the game. Know what I mean? It's all very smooth and fluid. I love it.
Agreed. And in the same breath, I would say, this game has a unique art style. I was going to say, when I was looking at screenshots, this is kind of like No Man's Sky, but it's a tiny bit different. It's just a little bit different. That it is not the same. It doesn't have the same look as No Man's Sky. I would say it almost gives me Deep Rock Galactic. Deep Rock? Oh man, I don't know Deep Rock. It gives me those kind of vibes of this game. Kind of blocky, but still smooth. I don't know how else to explain it, but it's kind of like that. So it's like a low poly game, but it's not, because your character is not really low poly. The world kind of is, though.
Yeah. It's not Minecraft. It's not boxes.
No,
but it is low poly, like you said. And as a consequence, I thought the art style looks clean. And I think it's going to look good for a long time. Yeah. It's not great. Not like, oh my God, this is the best looking thing ever.
Right.
But, we've said that 100 times. When you shoot for that, it looks great today, but will look terrible tomorrow. If you pick a style, you can look good forever.
Agreed. Yeah. Because people will recognize that and acknowledge that and accept it. Yeah. Whereas if you try to go for that uncanny valley, you're going to be stuck in that uncanny valley.
Yeah,
so,
it's true.
So be it. I didn't do this, but there is online co-op in this game. So you can play this game with your friends together. So that's cool. It's a fun little feature this game has.
Tied into that, you can customize your character. I think that's pretty neat. It's fun enough solo, because it is third person. So you are looking at your character.
Right.
But since you can play this multiplayer, all the more important to be able to change up your colors, change up your guy, make him look however you want him to look, so you can, stand out in a crowd.
Agreed. That is true. And for me, the other thing, again, kind of going back to the Deep Rock similarities here, this game has destructible environments, because you've got that. You got that the big old vacuum gun, as I'll call it, where you literally will take the land and suck it of all of its resources, and in doing so, you will terraform it in a way, and you can dig your way down or out of a particular situation. So I thought that was kind of cool.
Yeah. Kind of tied to that, I think I enjoyed the moments where you're messing around with your tools, messing around with the kit, in your sandbox, and you figure something out. Like, I really did enjoy those kind of like eureka moments of like, oh, this is how I do that thing that I was trying to do. Or like, you suck up this particular resource and it's like, oh, this is the resource that I was looking for so that I can do this thing. And now I can go and look for more of this because now I know what it looks like.
Yep.
Exactly. It does. It brought back fond memories for me of the very, very early days of Minecraft, like when it was in like an open beta style, where there was no tutorial, there were no instructions. It was just, this rinky-dink little PC game made by Notch, and it was out there in the world, and you could pay $10 or whatever it was. Maybe it was Canadian. I don't know. It was. I remember it being like weird and having to jump through a bunch of hoops to buy the game.
Yeah.
And you were just, it was it's a sandbox, right? There were, and then it's like, oh, I can punch a tree. Oh, if I do this, I can turn this into that. Like, this game has a lot of that kind of DNA to it, and it's fun.
Okay. All right. Anything else you want to bring up here about your likes, Tom?
I like this generally, and it's kind of, I think it's pretty normal for games like this to have it, but that you can revisit the tutorial whenever you need to.
Right.
It's in the menu systems, and even better than that, the tutorial is kind of done with like images. So it's not just blocks of text. There is graphics that kind of show me, don't tell me. Like, I don't want to read 3 paragraphs because I don't know if the way you wrote it and the way I read it are the same thing. But if you show me a picture, and it's like, I circled the thing in the top right corner, I could do that, Yeah. It's worth 1,000 words, that picture.
Okay.
So I thought that was good. Okay, cool. I think it helped with some of the eureka, like, oh, okay, page 3 of this shows me that thing,
Okay, cool.
Do you have anything else positive to say, or are we rolling into those negatives?
Let's roll right into those negatives here.
So I have a feeling you're about to disagree with me. What does that first line of yours say there, Chris?
I have to say this is probably the worst tutorial I've ever used in a game. It was really bad. To your point, yes, there are pictures and very limited text, but I almost feel like I wish there was a little bit more text or a little bit more context, because I kid you not. I agree with you when you said that there's that eureka moment, but my problem is, I guess I'm just too much of a dum-dum that I only figured this out probably in the 45-minute range of my playthrough, where I was like, oh, this is how I'm supposed to do this. And it was frustrating as hell for me, because you're literally dropped into this planet, and it's like, here's your mission log. Good luck. And I was like, what? I understand there is a tutorial that you can always come back to. And I did. I went back to it several times. Like, how do I do X? How do I understood how to gather resources. Fine. But then I was like, all right, once I gather those resources, what am I supposed to do with it? How do I use those things? Yes. It's like, oh, you need to build a printer. I was like, where do I go to build a printer? Like, it was just like constant, like, trying to figure out things. And I just wish the game held my hand a little bit more, just a little bit more. That's all.
I agree with you 100%. The first thing I wrote down, because it frustrated the heck out of me,
Yeah.
And I probably wrote down opening to the game and the cinematic thing because I liked that. And then immediately went down to dislikes and I wrote, it's unclear how I'm supposed to complete this objective.
Right.
And eventually I was able to figure it out by brute forcing it. Just I press every button and, click everything you can click. And then eventually it was like, oh, it gave me this thing. And then the checkbox happened. And it was, I guess I figured it out. But like the game did not tell me.
No, it was so frustrating. And speaking of frustrating, I started this game off because it was a third person. Like generally when I'm playing a game that's in third person, I will play it on the controller. And for me, this game was terrible on the controller.
Oh,
I thought it was so bad to play. Like the experience is just not great. And then I was like, let me try it on the mouse and keyboard. It was better. For sure, it was a better experience. Because I don't know about you, but with like, for example, managing your resources, right? When you go to collect the items, what happens is you have a backpack and you have, 6 slots? Or it might be a little bit more.
It was either 6 or 8, but yeah. 6
or 8. Yeah, you're right. I think it's 8. 8 slots where your resources kind of pop into these little holes. It's like a whack-a-mole kind of thing, whatever it is. Yeah. But then it's like, how do I take it out? With a controller, it was, you're battling with the sticks and stuff like that. Whereas the mouse, I'm plucking those out of my backpack to then place it on the ground or whatever, or go to my printer and stuff like that. The other thing that frustrated the heck out of me was the plugs. Like I didn't realize that you had to actually drag. I mean, I understand. I got it, but I was like, with the controller, I couldn't click on it because I would just hover over the home base. But then there was like nothing that would kind of like give me a context clue of like, this is where you go to pull the plug and detach it or whatever, like, and drag it into your printer. None of that. And then, but when I used my mouse, I was like, oh, there's a button there to pull the plug and plug it into your printer and stuff like that.
Right.
It was just so. I just felt like the controls and the UI were just fighting me to try and have a good time from this game. Like it was doing its best to try and make this game as difficult as possible. That's my thoughts, though. I don't know what you think, though.
I wrote here. It's like my 4th or 5th line. It says controls are not intuitive. I'm constantly pressing the wrong buttons.
Oh my gosh.
So like part of the game is dropping these tethers, which are basically stakes in the ground that take your oxygen from your home base and keep you supplied with O2 so that you don't pass out, suffocate and die.
Yeah.
And like I was constantly accidentally putting these things down or accidentally picking them up. There were too many buttons associated with not suffocating. Right. And it was driving me crazy because I'm like, I just want to go around collecting stuff, exploring. I don't want to be picking up and putting down like spikes everywhere.
Right.
It was like having to go rock climbing and having to, nail in spikes every 5 feet. Like it's not a whole good analogy
though. Yeah. I didn't even use those tethers. I was just like I was just so focused on trying to get the printer and the oxygenator set up, and I got the printer up. I did not get the oxygenator up because I didn't get the components I needed to do that. So whatever the case, I was, and that was the other thing with the UI, where I thought that I was like, when I was in the research thing, that's where I was building my stuff, right? Like I didn't realize that I needed to build I thought that's where I go to use the printer or create the printer. And then from the printer, I would do whatever I needed to do. But that was not the case. It was just so that I was able to have the knowledge to create the printer. I don't know. Frustrating.
No, you're right to be frustrated. I had trouble connecting the medium printer because the medium printer needs to be put on a base.
Yes.
Because you can't connect power straight to the printer. You have to put the printer on a power base. And
and that's the thing that boggles my mind too, because you're primed to be like, okay, I'm building a printer, therefore I didn't need a base for it. So my assumption is as the printer is building a bigger printer, which is also a little odd, but anyway, as it builds that bigger printer, it will be ready to use. Right. Not that you have to then attach it to some other platform that you have to, I don't know. It was, make it make sense, Tom. Make it make sense.
Yeah, You know what else, Chris?
What's that?
And I didn't like that you only have 8 slots of inventory.
Yeah.
I love to just It's a collectathon. These games are collectathons for me.
100%.
How much stuff can I shove in my backpack?
Yeah.
And the answer here is not a whole lot.
No, just 8 pieces, apparently.
Yeah. So no bueno for me on that. I did not like that at all. I think I'm pretty confident that once you get going, you could build, vehicles, and I was building storage solutions and stuff like. There's ways to get around it for sure.
Yeah.
The answer is you don't carry everything on your person.
True.
So
right. It's unfortunate. And again, just going back to the UI, I just feel like it really was fighting me, especially like if you have the compass on, which I thought, oh, that's kind of a cool feature. But then like it starts to block things in the UI, in the world that you just like, it wasn't great. And like if when I died and you try to pick up that backpack, or at least try to pick up the resources, it just wasn't intuitive. Like you had to pick it up, but then like take off the items that are in that backpack.
Yep.
And I'm like, okay. What the hell? Like, no rhyme or reason. And especially as someone that is supposed to be an astroneer or whatever you want to call them, you would think they would have this knowledge already and like auto pick up things for me, because it's like I've done this before, or I have an idea of what to do. So be it. That's
yeah.
I'm grinding my gears here, but that's what it is.
No. I do have something else that grinded my gears. I don't know if you're done ranting or not.
Oh, yeah.
But I've got at least one more.
Okay.
And this is something that makes me cringe every time I see it, which is there is a store with microtransactions. No, don't do it. Don't shove it in my face. I don't like it. No, sir, I don't like it.
Well, I want to say it wasn't as obtrusive.
It's not as aggressive
or as aggressive. Yeah.
That's fair.
But it is there, 100%. Like once you go into your menu, it is one of the tabs that is available. And it's like, all right, I'm going to completely ignore this tab. But yeah, that is that. But and that is your final dislike. Should we get to our other thoughts?
that was the cherry on the top of my dislike pile.
Yeah. Okay. Cool. So I will say this game does have Xbox Cloud saves, and I did mention co-op. It is cross-platform co-op too, so that's always neat to have inclusion within ecosystems. So that's good. Good for them. Good for them. And this game, according to How Long to Beat, takes about 21 hours to complete.
Okay,
so hefty game. Hefty game for what I would think.
So and for anyone curious, the grander game loop is that you basically get to the core of a planet, activate something, and then hop to another planet. Oh. And the games, each planet gets progressively harder until you get to the final planet. And that's how it takes 21 hours. And you could say that it takes 21 hours because otherwise, if you just looked at this game, you'd be like, you just wander around doing whatever for forever, Yeah. But no, there is an objective to how to clear a planet, and it'll bring you to another planet. So,
right. Okay.
I put down some things here that I think are interesting for people who maybe are curious after the hour. Where does the game go? Right. So later in the game, there is a railway system, as in trains. Yeah. That I think sounds pretty cool. Layered on top of that, there's automation and logic-based items. Oh. So you can set up a whole thing where it would like mine an area for you, and then like sends these resources over to this place and send those resources to that place. Oh, wow. Okay. Get on a train and it'll bring you to the next stop. You can set up like rail stops. It looks pretty complicated, pretty sophisticated. Yeah. I was impressed with the level of it. Which was all shown to me in the tutorial, in some of the advanced tutorial options. I was like, oh, this sounds really cool. Yeah. Didn't get to it. Because I spent a lot of time dying and not knowing how to play the game. But it is there, I guess, later in the game. And for anyone curious, this game actually started as an art project by a single individual, and then it grew into one of these kind of early access Kickstarter-y kinds of games. Yeah. And now here we are, Game Pass, right? So it's definitely one of those things that was evolved into its current state. Sure. Not a game that was conceived as a game from the ground up, from the beginning. Yeah. Okay, cool. So that is that. And before we get to our final decisions, though, Tom, we do want to thank our sponsor, cdkeys.com.
for helping us out, supporting the show. And you can support the show by clicking the link in our YouTube or podcast description and, checking out cdkeys.com and all the really cool stuff that's always there. Game Pass subscriptions, and they've got daily deals of games up to 90% off. So, but check them out, and don't be surprised if you find a game that you want to play for cheap. So
it's the best price.
It is the best price, cheap or free, but that's
maybe the second
best price. But Tom, are we keeping this game, or are we going to suffocate it?
So I want to give this game a fair shake. I want to be honest and say, by the end of my hour, I was pretty invested. I had a genuinely hard time putting the game down once it's got going, right? Mm-hmm. Once I knew how to play it and I wasn't just dying repeatedly, and I was like, okay, and understood how to complete the objectives, and I was making a lot of headway. I was like, all right, like this is, I'm having a good time here. Mm-hmm. But the reality is, I doubt that I would turn this game on again unless somebody else like you or some other friends or whatever wanted to try the co-op.
Yeah.
I think this game would be fun co-op, like much more fun co-op.
I could see that.
In the same way that Grounded or Minecraft or any of these kind of sandbox games, like it's always more fun to build and destroy together.
Agreed.
No Man's Sky, same thing.
Yeah. I 100% get that. And I wish I could be as positive as you, Tom, but this is probably one of the most frustrating experiences I've had with a game on Game Pass. And I will probably, that's a lot to say because, there is Vampire Survivors here, unfortunately, but it's pretty close to that in terms of, because the fact of the matter is, if it took me almost my entire hour to finally get that eureka moment, my concern is that it's going to be like that for the rest of the game, where it's like, I will hit another stumbling block where I will be like, how the heck do I do this? And I'm going to be wasting time trying to figure out what to do to get to this thing. And not in a positive way. The game doesn't really push you in a particular direction either. And it in that sense, it was frustrating. So I'm not going back to this game. But
I think for anyone out there, if you have a friend that likes this game and is like, yeah, you should play this, make that friend play it with you.
Yeah.
And they will show you everything that the game doesn't show you. And you would probably have a grand time.
Right.
Because you wouldn't get frustrated. They would show you right away the air tethers. They would show you right away how to complete these objectives and get the ball rolling.
Yeah.
And, in the way that a good tutorial would if this one had one.
Yes. You definitely need those Sherpas in your life when you're dealing with Astroneer. But those are our thoughts. Let us know what you think of this game. Follow us and say hello on Twitter at TC1H1D or threads at TC1H1D, or shoot us an email at TC1H1D@outlook.com. Check out our next streams on Twitch at twitch.tv/1H1D. And, hey, you know what? We've been doing this show for over 130 episodes now. If you'd be so kind as to maybe leave a rating on Spotify or whatever, Apple Podcasts or whatnot, hey, that'd be appreciative too. So
as long as it's a good rating.
As long as it's a good rating. Well, or be honest, send us a message and tell us why you think this show is bad. I don't care. I'd love to have that conversation.
You know what it is though? Like, how if it's like rate an app, and it's like, if you want to leave something, a good thing, it's like, it'll bring you to the place where you would leave a good review. Yeah. And if you say something bad, they're like, okay, but send us an email about how bad that is. That's what we want you to do.
Exactly. 1H1D is part of that QTB network, and if you like any kind of cool gaming podcasts or gaming content, check out quitthebuild.com/network. Now, Tom, we do have to find out though what we're playing next.
It is a prerequisite of having a next episode.
It really is, and the surprising button is going to help us with that one. So here we go.
Surprise us.
And it is surprising us with Signalis.
I feel like I've seen that before, but I'm not 100% sure.
Yeah, I am excited to try this out because I've heard very good things about this game. So that is it for this episode, and we will be talking to you about Signalis in the next one. So thank you so much for everyone tuning in, and we will catch you on the next one.
Thanks, everybody.